a contractor gets at least 10% of a project. At least with a good contractor who doesn't cheat, he also fairly gets 10%. And people are very happy to give a contractor 10% profit of a project. But if an architect asks for 5% fee, people are scared. Yeah, they will tell that you are providing all us with some paper and some prints. How much do they cost? They will not value you unless you start valuing yourself.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Architectural Trap Faraway Sessions. And in this episode, we will discuss a topic which has definitely, crossed our minds one time or the other. How much do young architects earn in the initial years, and when does it get better? So, without much ado, let us get into the episode and see what our panelists have to talk about. Firstly, with us we have architect Abhishek Datta, who is the principal architect of Archon Design Studio in Kolkata. He has graduated with a gold medal from Jadavpur University and has worked in various places before starting his own firm. He has been an executive member and editor of the West Bengal chapter of Indian Institute of Architects and is currently the honorable treasurer of the Indian Institute of Interior Designers. So we have with us architect Ayushi Dhar. She is a graduate of Jadavpur University in Bachelor's in Architecture. She went ahead and worked in Datta Khan Partners in Bangalore. Now she is waiting to pursue her Master's in Landscape Architecture from SET. And finally, we have with us Rashni Paricha, who has completed her graduation in Bachelor's in Architecture from Jadavpur University and then moved on to do her Master's and finally settle her career in UI design. She currently works in Outreach Circle in Bangalore as a senior UI designer. So, in this episode, we go ahead and discuss what are realistic financial expectations that young architects can have after they graduate. We also discuss various different avenues like internships, working in offices, and even starting their own firm, along with discussing the possibilities of switching career paths into other design fields. So stay tuned till the end of the discussion to understand their perspective, and comment down below if you find the architectural fun fact hidden towards the end of the video. So, guys, to start with the conversation on a much lighter note, let me start by asking you guys what was the first time that you earned money and how was that feeling and what was that amount, because we want to discuss the financial aspects of being an architect, and all three of you have at some point graduated from an architecture school. So what was the first time that you earned money and what was it about?
Being coming from a very humble background, I used to look for work just to earn money to sustain. I used to do a lot of other work. So my typical day used to start like I used to work for somebody in Kakinara for as a site supervisor. Then I used to come back to JU directly from Kakinara. Then in the 15 hours I used to go and work for some other architect. And again go to get back to school. Then again go back to other 3-4 areas. So I used to do that from right from second year, I guess. So I used to earn. I think at that point of time, Max was just picking up, and very few people used to know Max. So I used to do 3D views and animations and all. Uh, but that time, it was the market was pretty exploitative. I can tell you the first Max view that I did, which took me almost say, 10 days or so of sleepless nights and all. But after that, including the prints, I got about 800 bucks. So it was exploitative, but even those 800 bucks meant a lot at that time. So this was that way. My another was a Dalhousie Square documentation where we used to go and measure all these colonial buildings for a conservation project under architect Manish Chakraborty. There we also got a very low amount. I should not be mentioning it so low, but still a small amount we got. Even that was a great thing. That was in the first year itself. We took visual drawing of all the colonial buildings like GPO, Royal Insurance, and HSBC, all those things. That was tough, difficult, time consuming, but it was a great learning opportunity.
Yeah, for me, I think it was internship. But before that, a few competitions here and there, architecture. But that used to be like probably just, 1,000 or 5,000 or so on. And other than that, I would say internship.
Okay. And it was a good experience during the internship?
Oh yeah, my internship was pretty good because the firm which I used to work with, like they are a very good work culture, I would say, and then they also used to relax and enjoy in between. So they used to take us out to
What did you have
the
your internship?
Yeah, Datta Kannan Partners in Bangalore.
Okay.
Yeah, so and I also had a very good group of co-interns. So yeah, the pay was obviously, I'll tell you, it was just 5,000. But of course, you can't do anything with 5,000 in Bangalore. But yeah, otherwise it was fine. It was a good time. Like
Mhm.
internships, I don't think you can really expect to sustain yourself so much. Maybe part of it, but yeah.
For me, the first time I earned even a penny was in towards the end of my first year. So there was this one small gig that I got. So me and one of my classmates, Upasna, if you know her. So the two of us, we sort of got this gig at this company called Bengal Unitech Universal. It's in Sector 5. And we used to go there. So this lasted for a little over a week, I think 10 days or so. And we would go there and we would color sheets. So for whatever reason, they needed somebody to apply Fuji color on all of their sheets. So that's what we used to do. So for 10 days, we got 1900 rupees. So between the two of us, we got 950. And we were thinking what to do with that because we couldn't do like a lot with 950 rupees. So we decided to get a British Council library membership. So it was enough for that membership. So yeah, so we used to go get all these really good architecture related books from British Council. So that was the first time I earned like any penny on my own. And then after that, like Ayushi pointed out, like the next big stepping stone was the internship.
And so, how was your internship experience?
Exhausting. It was extreme. It was so the thing is that because it was there were so many responsibilities to be taken. I also ended up learning a lot. In fact, truth be told, like the career path that like the switch that I made later on in life was primarily due to the things that I picked up during those 6 months. So when I was there, there was this one Spanish architect who used to take care of all the presentation drawings and all of those other things. And then she had to leave because her visa expired. So after she left, it was all on me to sort of take care of all of those things. Working on Illustrator, InDesign, this and that and whatnot. And one of the projects got published on Domus, the magazine. So even for that, I had to take a lot of responsibilities, and that's when I sort of started developing this liking for what I do now. So yeah, so it was like a lot of work. Sometimes I would come home at like 2 a.m. at night, and then the very next morning again at like 8:30, I would have to go back to work. But I mean, yeah, it was a good learning experience for me.
I'll share
Right.
a fun fact. It was actually Rashnidi who inspired me to go to Bangalore. Remember
Uh,
Rashnidi, how I used to go through my portfolio and everything?
yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
I used to nitpick about, your font choices and everything. And I'm like, no, your text is not aligned here. Your text is not aligned here. No, there's too much overlap here. People cannot read this. So yeah.
So, how was your internship back when you were in college?
See, I was pretty casual about everything, but not casual about my design. Only I used to think that only design is a thing worthwhile spending my time, and rest of the thing just can happen, just happen. So I forgot to apply for internship on time and all. So suddenly I realized all my friends are dead somewhere. And I used to do a lot of interesting design. I used to do work with a lot of architects. So I knew that getting a place in internship was not a problem. I could just jump into anybody and everybody will be happy to get. But I wanted to do it in a farm where I'd be able to understand the integrity of the architecture, and moreover I wanted to work in a farm where I'll start respecting the field itself, because since before my internship I already had worked for at least 10, 11 architects in the city, and they were good. They were commercial architects mainly, working for projects of a scale, but I wanted to explore more. So I went to Delhi along with my portfolio and not applied in any one. But when I went to Kanvinder Rais Chaudhary's office, it was already taken, and one of my friend, host of you guys must be knowing him, he was already placed with a recommendation from one of Sanjay sir's friends, and he was also a fantastic designer. He is now in Australia. He's a fantastic. I mean, I envy his case. So once I went there, they said, "All we already have taken." So I was quite taken aback, and I said, "Okay, no problem. Just I have come from that part. Just have a look at my portfolio and tell me what I could do good." So once I had shown there my portfolio along with all the professional work that already I had done, sir and madam had a separate discussion, keeping me waiting outside, and then they kind of created a special for me, and I was taken into internship in their office. But something happened in between, which was quite fun, uh, because the architect I was working under, he left for higher studies. So five projects which were happening, I become the only person who knows most about those five projects. So eventually, it happened that three, four architects started working under me for those projects. So, so I became a project leader being an intern. And junior most, everybody loved me. Um, to be very honest, I can tell you candidly now that just to save my money, because unlike you guys, I used to get 4,000 bucks, and I not only survived on that, I made my parents come from Calcutta to Delhi, and I have make them visit Haridwar and Agra, Taj Mahal and all with that money itself. Then I came back with certain money excess to buy my first computer, because I was the guy who knew most of the computer, but I did not have an access to my personal computer because I worked with other architects, in their farms. I spent time, and I was solving problems of every other friends of mine. So that way, I was the only guy without a computer, but knowing most of it. At that time, I was the updated, big computer guy. But anyway, so I was saving every penny possible. So I used to work till very last time when sir said, "Okay, Abhishek, it's too late, you just go." And where do you stay? I said, I stay in Ravindpuri, Kalkaji. He said, okay, I'll give you a lift till Safdarjung. So that was, 8 rupees saved for me. So it's the work, and I kind of, you have seen the ganne ka jo ras hota hai na, you nikalta hai ek ke baad ek. So till the very last drop, I used to get out of the system, and that I can tell you gave me so much confidence, so much. I single-handedly handled 250 crore rupees worth of project in the office, single-handedly. So that gave me immense confidence to start my own farm right after beginning, along with my partner, architecture, and now as well as in life. We started out because of that internship, a fantastic experience. I can tell you, we got the guts and confidence to start jump in.
Perfect, perfect. So, talking about internships and all the experiences that you guys have had, um, we recently had an episode where we were talking with some aspiring and currently working architectural journalists, where we touched upon a very interesting subject of what they have termed as archi-slavery, wherein there is a whole debate going on about the whole aspect of internships without pay all over India currently, and also internships with very low pay, which kind of, in their words, and I quote, creates a filter for the privileged people in society to go ahead because they can afford it, while a lot of people who do not have the means to sustain themselves without that, support from the firm they are working in, they can't really go ahead and work in those firms. So what do you guys feel, what is your stance on it, especially as two people who are currently working, and sir who is currently taking in interns at his office? What do you think is the correct stance for this situation?
No, I totally agree that it creates this kind of advantage for privileged kids, because like when you're going to some other city, you at least expect to be able to pay your transport money and maybe your food and partly your accommodation. So because otherwise not everybody is as privileged to be able to work in such conditions. So I agree with that. And on one hand, there is this, like many firms do this, but it's kind of your personal choice. Like there are so many other firms that you can opt for. Like, so if this particular firm, they are charging you for your internships nowadays. So you can always choose not to go there. I mean, there are other good firms too. And that being said, there is also this thing about internships that, so for example, my internship, I used to just get 5,000, as I said. But also, it's not always totally about the pay. Like this minimum pay it should be there, but also it's about the exposure that you're getting. Because if you're going to a city like Bangalore or Ahmedabad or Delhi, Like you have all these, architectural masterpieces and all these famous architects, and you're getting the chance to interact and learn from them. So I think that is kind of important towards the beginning of your career rather than a high pay. So
That is true, but actually, I think the essence of the question is even if we take into account a city like Ahmedabad, which is said to be the mecca of architecture in India,
mhm.
and yet it is one of the lowest paying in terms of internships and fresher jobs. So, in firms like that, do you think, and this question extends to others as well when they are speaking, do you think that the opportunity of working with very well-known architects is somehow getting restricted to people who can afford to work under low pays?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I think what a lot of firms, and not just architecture firms, like generally any company, what they can do is that, say if paying directly, let's say 5,000, 10,000, say for whatever reason, if they are not willing to pay in cash, the least that they can do is pay in kind. So let's say getting them an accommodation close to the office or paying for the meals. For instance, when I was doing my internship, every day for lunch, the entire office would go out and, we would spend like a nice 1 hour at some restaurant, and me getting only 5,000 a month, if I were to shell out 200 rupees or 150 rupees for lunch every single day, that was a monumental amount of money for what I was earning. And but at the same time, for the sake of team spirit and like whatever, sort of blending with everybody else, I had to do it. It's sort of like a little bit of peer pressure, and you also want to leave a good impression before you leave, so that is also a part of that. I think at the very least what the companies can do, and I think there are some architecture firms that do provide like all the meals during the office hours, like breakfast and lunch and sometimes evening snacks. So that's one good practice, and it would probably cost them less. Like even if it's like a free internship, it would probably cost them less, even if they get something very basic like dal chawal and some veg curry on the side. So, but at the same time, people won't go hungry. They won't have to make all of these compromises, getting them an accommodation. So maybe the company, if they know that every semester they are going to take in 3 interns, and usually with companies, it's never like 3 interns in one semester and 18 interns in another semester, right? They pretty much know that we're going to take in one or two to three interns. So they can probably have one like affordable accommodation standby close to the office or something, so that when the interns do come in, they know that okay, like this is where we can put them up. So that way, it's a win-win situation for both parties.
Probably I would have a little different view, not totally disregarding your aspect, but since here I might be representing the company itself, which we have been talking about. Now,
Okay.
Right.
in the question, it's going to be very all have to listen very carefully about the aspect of little deeper than what we see. Like
Okay.
first of all, you need to understand internship is a part of your course, right? Now
Mhm.
your college doesn't give you the discounts for that semester where they have no road, and you are quite happy to pay them a few, 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees for that particular semester itself. So the pressure should, from the student, the pressure should be given to the institute that you are not spending a single penny on us. Why are you charging us? The question is other way. And the institute should pay the architectural firm for the opportunity that they are providing to the youngsters to learn. To be very honest, when I talk as a part of an organization who accommodates trainees, like in our organization, it's not has been it hasn't been a smooth ride for us, and initially we are also hand to mouth condition most of the time, the struggling period of the 10, 12 years of our existence. That time we used to pay about 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 max to our trainees interns. Now we have a system where we have a gradation. Like we can pay a trainee 10,000 bucks in Calcutta also, which is quite high compared to the Calcutta market. And we also pay somebody 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, but normally we try to keep it within 7 to 10 max. This is the kind of range that you offer it. But if you want the very best of people on that slot, see why you get paid. It's not that because you were an intern, you are entitled to get paid, right? It's
Yeah, I
not the
agree.
company. It's not the company who pays less, because in the same organization, uh, company is ready to pay somebody 50,000 rupees per month, 1 lakh rupees per month, and somebody is working here for say 10,000 rupees per month. So what is the difference? It's not that the company doesn't pay; it's that what value do you add to the marketplace for which you get paid? And our expectations are like, I am say 5 years experienced architect, I am 10 years experienced architect. The marketplace, you may be very valuable person in your family, to the society, in the God's eyes, everybody is very valuable. But to the marketplace, how much value you bring, that determines how much you should expect. And it has nothing to do with your experience. Because if you say that I'm a 14 years old or 15 years experienced architect, it doesn't mean anything. You might be having a 1 year experience repeated 15 times. It doesn't make you more valuable. Rather, if you are a 3 years experienced guy with multiple jobs opportunities, multiple critical problem solving ability, and your commitment, your sincerity, and your feeling, taking the responsibility, sense of responsibility are most important for me personally. So when we take a project, we are end to end responsible. We don't put an annual pay. This is his fault or this is my consultant's fault. We are end to end responsible. Therefore, I want my team to be also end to end responsible. So
Yeah.
there are various aspects where you start deserving certain money. I can pay you 20,000 rupees as an intern also, but you have to be somebody who deserve that money. Because
Yeah.
when can I pay you 20,000? Because if you are bringing me something worth 50,000 a month with all the infrastructure, taxation, and other legal aspects taken care of, I can pay you that much. In our internship program last year also, what happened that two interns were working and they were getting handsomely paid as an internship. But once we got certain projects where we particularly had no such involvement, it was almost like a thing that they can handle. So I gave them a separate job to work on, and they got separate incentive for working on those jobs apart from their internship. So those things, it will depend on the farm, of course. There are farms who only looks into their bottom line, and there are farms which looks into the other aspects of that, as well, being fair, being justified. This is the kind of outlook of a many farm. I know in Calcutta at least 3 4 farm. I know the owners of those farms are of the same mentality that I am showing you guys, because we want to contribute. But at the same time, another aspect is there. Suppose I have I have a place for two interns in my office. There are 250 applications right now standing in my, and out of them we have a system where we ask them how much salary do you expect. Majority of the people expect to work for free or to work for under 4,000 rupees a month. Majority of them. I can tell you in my list at least 100, 120 people are there who are just ready to learn. Now, if you look at, if you tell this same problem from a perspective of somebody who can afford to pay, it's not a question of affordability. It's also a question of commitment. Somebody who says that I don't want to get anything, I just want to learn. So the eagerness of learning also has to be reflected, because I have seen pathetic portfolio sent, pathetic work sent. Their expectations are like 10,000 bucks per. Whereas somebody who is really good in their portfolio and other academic work, they are saying that I'm ready to work for. So now
So I'll just interject and ask you a question. Do you think it's a condition of lack of commitment, or do you think it's a condition of lack of awareness where they do
not
not know
always.
that they can probably charge
No, no, no.
10,000 for it
I
and get a
don't
job?
say that. I don't say that. I say it's not always. It's not a generalized rule, one rule fits all type of thing. It varies with individual to individual. Like somebody who is staying in Calcutta, he can afford to work for free. But somebody who is coming from Ranchi and have to manage an accommodation over here, for them it's really tough. So we also do not encourage people to do. And even if we commit somebody, if they are coming for just for learning without pay, we also make sure that they are well taken care of. And the way Rashmi was telling, Roshni was telling that taking care of people in kinds, in terms of cash, we also gave them certain cash, whether it's true or not. We give them their TA bill and your some lunch, and some, we keep on having parties. Right down right now, lockdown, everybody is missing the parties of the work they are doing from home, but everybody is missing the parties, because every week, almost every week, we had some party here. So those things where interns are not to ask to contribute, we used to take the cost now. But apart from all these aspects, one very crucial aspect which people must concentrate: this internship is not a place to earn. Internship, the very objective of the internship is to learn. So where you get a lot of opportunity to learn, lot of opportunity to be involved. Because if I pay you 10,000 bucks and if I give you only work to color in a sheet throughout your 6 month period, you will learn nothing. So even that 10,000 is not going to help you in future.
No,
So most of
I agree with the competence aspect of it, that you're not entitled to anything. You have to sort of earn your spot. So I completely
exactly.
agree with that. But my point was that like if somebody is like say even if somebody is working for free, especially in another city, the least the company can do is, even if they are not paying in cash, just make like help them with the accommodation or the food situation, just that. And it
So
it doesn't necessarily have to
that
be
we do.
just for the.
That is not about us, but see, you also have to understand the entire ecosystem. Council of Architecture says that an architect should be got minimum 5% of. Here, if you go in the market today, only I got a interesting information from some other senior architects in the competition. People are quoting less than 2 rupees a square feet. Can you imagine 2 rupees? ना तो मैं किसी को दान में दे. So these are the kind of situation. The way the internship situation is that if somebody is there ready to work for free, why should I hire somebody who is asking for 10,000? The same thing applies to the market as well. If there are architects who are ready to work for menial wage peanuts, then the more sensible architects who put a lot of effort, they're also not getting paid. Had it been a large, very high margin industry like IT or something where it's almost like the cost is apart from HR, you have no other cost, the IT almost. So there, with the surplus cash on hand, they can afford to do this thing. It is not that we don't want, we want to be insensible to people. It's not that. But it also has to be understanding the ground realities, the affordability of the firm, whether they can accommodate five, six employees, five, six interns who are not contributing to the bottom line, just to make them understand if we are paying those, incurring that much cost, that also become unviable. That's why what we have done as a solution, we take 2 interns with full kind of internship stipend, and for the rest, it is an optional thing. Whom we are not, we haven't done it exactly for free. We have done it for some minimum wage, say 3,000, 4,000 bucks only for a couple of times. And I have also seen these people doesn't become very valuable in future. If you are working for this thing, then what happens is your commitment is not there. He said, I'm working for free, I'm not committed. That's not going to yield the perfect result for you. So we are also reluctant to take people who are there, but we also respect people who are so willing to learn that they are ready to struggle, they are ready to do everything. Because in architecture, to be very honest, if you are looking for money, was this is not the thing. It's a complete different. Even if you become a very successful person like Vivi Doshi or Charles Korea, if you look in terms of money that they have accumulated, it's nothing. A junior level employees in an IT firm gets more than them. So this is not the place for people. I used to complain a lot because we get paid because I have been teaching some of my friends who are into other industries and they get much more pay than me. But later on, I discovered as artists, we are the highest paid community. If we consider ourselves as artists, the struggle of an artist, architects are highest paid artists in that. So that you also have to, it's all about a perspective. I
So
hope we
I
have deviating from the main topic of discussion of internship pay. I agree with the fact that exploitation is not done. Since I got on a lot of exploitation in my time with all the architects, many architects I have worked with, and I had a pledge that I will never exploit it. So those things we are trying to maintain, but as much as possible. Only I can tell you as much as possible. Maybe today I am in a situation to dictate terms to some of my clients and tell that I won't do it. I'm in a position to say I won't do your project. But it is not the same position for many other firms I know. Many of the firms which are senior to me as well, they also can't do those kind of things. So it is depends on the business strategy. It depends on the kind of foothold, the creativity that you have shown. You have the market reputation that you've been able to establish. It depends on so many things. But the industry as a whole undoubtedly is a very very low paying industry. As a consultancy, you're talking about, but it opens your eyes. It opens this industry opens your eyes to various other things, so that your opportunities are limitless. And the fulfillment, the sense of fulfillment. Once you Once I go to one of my projects, per say 8-10 acres of land are being developed as per my drawings, my sketches. The feeling you can't buy with all the monies of the world. So those you have to respect, and the fulfillment, the sense of success comes from that, not from money. Money comes as a byproduct.
Right, right.
Even,
So
even
yeah, so actually, I'll address the next question to Rashni Ji because she is currently working as a senior UI designer. So do you also agree that in some form or the other, architects are the highest paid artists, or because like I do feel that there are some designers, especially if you're a good graphic design firm, you can, I think, earn a lot more just by design. So what are your opinions being in that industry right now?
are you asking me or Rashmi?
Rashni. She's working as a UI designer, so I think she will know
Yeah.
the working of it.
Sure.
So the thing is that first of all, I mean, in my opinion, and with all due respect, Abhishekda, it's just that the second you call yourself an artist, it's like, see, what I do. Of course, there's a huge part of it which is art, but then there's like it's like a 70-30 kind of a thing. So 30% of it is definitely art. Like it has to, like the interfaces I design, they have to look nice, they have to look pretty. But 70% of it is backed by cold hard science, like the amount of usability testing. Like I'll tell you the amount of detail that we drill down to, even the way a thumb moves, or let's say the way the human eye, when they are reading something, how it moves, how many pixels something has to be for a thumb to be able to click. So these things, that's not art. That's, at the end of the day, we have to run like several experiments, we have to get a lot of focus groups, etc. And after like sifting through thousands of data points, that's when you come up with those things. So that's grounded in
Just, just,
reality,
just,
cold hard
just to
fact.
put things on right perspective. When I meant that we are highest paid artists, I never meant an architect is an artist. I meant the mentality of an artist, the philosophy of artwork, like the sense of creating something from nothing. Only that part is what I meant. But otherwise, of course, in architecture, you have so many complex engineering aspects and technological aspects in, and you not only it's not only restricted to engineering and technology aspect of it. You have to cater to human psychology. You have to cater to financial needs. There are so many complex things, and the more sensible and architects become more experienced, become the things become more complex than the creative component of it. So,
Yeah.
like right now,
Yes.
like 15% is
Even
creative artwork. The rest of the things are completely technical, super complicated technology integration. But this is what I
yes.
said. What you are saying is
So
perfect, and it applies to all the things.
uh,
So please carry on.
so no, so I think the best way to go ahead with this is to more likely call us designers rather than artists, because I think design caters to a lot of
That
other
caters, I
aspects,
agree. I,
functionality.
as I mentioned, I am not mentioning us as an artist because artist doesn't have a client. Apart from expressing his own thought, I do a lot of artwork as well myself. So I understand the difference between the artwork. When I am doing artwork or I'm writing poetry, I have nobody to answer. It's all my feeling. If you like it, like. Otherwise, you take it or leave it, whatever you want. It's all about my expression. But once I'm working as a designer, as an architect, we mainly working as an optimizer of a complex problem, solving people's problems. So even when Roshni is working on certain aspects of UI design, the complexity, the design aspect is
So basically, like even like what I was explaining, that also extends to architecture. That for me, it's not just because I remember like from the first day of first year at Jadavpur, we were always sort of told how to distinguish between art and design. So I would say if like on that, I mean, with respect to that, I think architects and any designers, they are. I mean, we are all designers at the end of the day. So the umbrella term is designers. So I would say that let's put it this way, like the how much let's say a UI UX designer or even a graphic designer, or let's say your like product designer, whatever their like a ballpark estimate of like what the average is, the average annual salary, uh, like I don't think an architect, at least not in the first 20 years, 20, 25 years, or unless they start their own career, unless they start their own firm, I don't think they'll be able to see that kind of money. So let's say even as a graphic designer or a product designer or a UI designer, how much ever your annual package is, like I mean, it's the comparison is very skewed because an architect would probably have to work 5 years or 10 years in order to make that level of money.
So I'll bring along the conversation to Ayushi because you were working in Bangalore for some time as a junior architect, right? Just after graduating, and I think like even Sir said, we are part of like in umbrella terms, we are part of the faculty of engineering and technology. And we and Bangalore being the hub of IT industry, where a lot of fresher IT personnel, engineering personnel are also going. Uh, how in terms of the cost of living and your lifestyle, how different is it, or how is it difficult for you to adjust to a space where you are among freshers of other industries, but you're not earning close to even what they're earning?
No, not really actually. Because, like, if you say for internship, like architects actually get a stipend, and most of these IT firms and all, they don't so much pay a stipend because it's like just probably what 1 month internship or training program. So in that way, internship definitely I would say, I mean, as Obishekda said, internship, it's not a salary, it's a stipend. So you are just
So
looking to meet the basic needs.
I'm
And
talking of after graduating, like
after
junior,
graduating,
right? Yep.
right. So after graduating, you can reasonably expect anywhere between 20 to 30 as a project architect in Bangalore. But having said that, yeah, because you'll almost be spending probably 80% of your salary on accommodation and food, and especially if it's a good area where most of the architectural firms are located, then yeah, it's going to cost you a lot. And but at the same time, I feel towards, like how they say architecture, it's like you have to make a long term commitment to it. Like initially everybody knows it's going to be tough, and it's going to be tougher before it gets better. So like you have to be there for the long draw in this. And because if you compare with IT company employees, so in the beginning, right, their annual package may be much more lucrative than an architect's, but eventually, like, there is also this thing that you are going to be someday giving employment to other people, and which is probably not possible working as an IT employee. So you have to think about those aspects as well, and really broaden your vision as to what you want. Is it just the materialistic wants you have, which you want like a swanky new apartment or a new gadget or anything? Is it that, or whether you are thinking long term and you want, I would say, what, a bigger goal in the end? And plus, working as an architect, the salary may be low, but you're actually leaving behind a legacy in the built environment. And how many IT employees get to do that?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, drawing from that, and also I'll talk about one of the other episodes we did where we were talking with young professors, and this is something that came up then as well. Whenever we talk about architecture, we talk about, it's not only about the money that you're earning. It's about, the bigger aspect of things. And while I agree to that, I would also like to, open up this discussion to the point that, do you guys think that at some point we have romanticized low pay in architecture, where we are okay to it and we rationalize it with other things like at least I learned something from it? I mean, if you're looking at some other industries, you can actually learn while sustaining yourself. So my question to you guys is, do you think we've romanticized low pay?
I would just take the opportunity to start because I will link with what Ayush is finished with. Like if you are working in an IT firm and if you are getting the package of say 24 lakhs or something per annum, if you are working for somebody and it's not about the package, it's about the impact that you are going to do. Whatever project, whatever software you might be working on today, 5 years from now, that software is not going to exist. It's going to be either upgraded to something else or it will be obsolete. So you are working for something which is so temporal in nature. You can't even show your kids that, see, this is what I work for. If somebody now says that I work for in MS DOS, people in his next generation will tell, what? I haven't heard of. But in terms of architecture, if you are creating a school, suppose we do a lot of schools nowadays. So like if I am creating a school, imagine the number of students who will be coming out of those schools every year, and I would be meeting them in some party, and I'll tell your school was designed and conceptualized in my head first before it came into reality. So this feeling you can't have it in any other form. Even in the artwork, if you are using if you're an artist, your art, unless you are one of the greatest whose art is placed in some museums and all, most of the artwork end up staying in some rich people's home as they're in their private collection, right? So what happens? How many people get impacted by the emotion of the artist? But look at the architect. If whatever we create, even if you are not a direct user, if you are passing by one of my design, if you say, "Wow, I can touch your mind even for a second," I'll get satisfaction beyond my time. Whenever I, even after when I'm dead, my building will keep inspiring people. At least if I'm sensible enough to design that way, with the intention of that, to get this opportunity.
I agree with the software versions being outdated completely because I've been with this company for exactly a year, and already we've like it's like every 2 3 months we've got like new upgrades coming in. That's completely justified, but at the same time, nobody can ever like say 5 years down the line. In fact, this company used to be called something else a year ago, and then they changed, like rebranded the whole thing. Now that previous version doesn't even exist. But say whatever work I'm putting in right now, nobody can take that away from me. Even if say Orkut, it's completely gone. But say
Mm-hmm.
if there was or let's say Apple today. I mean, not today. Johnny Ive left. So Johnny Ive was the design head for Apple. Just because he has left, nobody can take that away from him. He can still say that I was the one who made Apple Apple. Like he is almost as important for Apple as Steve Jobs was, if not more, because he was the one because of which Apple got its popularity, the sleek design and everything, the clean design, the minimalism, all of that was because of him. Just because there are new versions coming in his
Absolutely.
absence, that so
Absolutely.
that cannot be. So it's like
Same thing
my
happens
art.
in interior design as well. Like architecture, maybe they are planned for say 100 years, 60 years. For interior designs, people keep on changing their interior, say average 4 to 5 years. But if you are
Yeah,
doing a great design, it will stay in the history books for sure. Like at least
yeah.
in your personal history book, it will stay. But the works get published in magazines and all. You get a record, you get a sense of fulfillment. That's perfectly fine. And no
Yeah.
denial, no denial of the fact. See, this is not an isolated journey. Whatever you are creating today, even if it get destroys tomorrow, that has actually put seed for the next jump, right? So
Mm.
whatever Orkut kind of initiated Facebook, although not directly, it was a complete different history. But people psychologically, socially got interested into social media as such through Orkut. Then Facebook came in and kind of took advantage of these technological platforms and all. But everything is connected, and everything affects everything else. So nothing is like no effort is in vain ever.
You also have to look at the market. So when the country got independent, when we got independence and the whole country was being designed, so that was a great time for architects. You must be knowing the contemporary situation
I
at
was
that
not
time.
there. I was not.
So,
I was very much not there. That
but
you were not there.
right, of course, but you must have read about it. So after that, this is the time of the IT people. It is what it is. Like because everything is going digital. So like architecture has kind of taken a sort of a little backseat at the moment because there are so many architects and there are so many buildings, and the built environment is already like quite built. So this I would say like it's just not so much the time for architects right now. Yeah,
I would
Rashmi.
disagree with that. I would disagree with that. There is no time which is good for an architect or bad for an architect. For that, no time is good or bad for anybody doing anything. It's all there is
Right.
always place for the people who are committed, who are best in their craft. It's there always. Now, the market runs on a demand and supply basis. Simple. If you can fulfill somebody's demand, then and the supply and your competition is limited, you will get paid more. Otherwise, you still there is a market, because whatever you are going to do, there is a market. The price point may be changing, the exploitation in the market might be changing, the scenario might be changing, but no market is going to be going out of the river.
No, what I meant to say is at some point, I don't think it's right to compare with the IT people or any other
No,
industry
no,
as such in the first place. But what I think is theirs is a little more essential at this point because, look, when it comes to designing a building, okay, architects will do a great job, but there are also people who design themselves, which is the situation in our country because you don't need that specialization always. So I think that has kind of undervalued the profession a little bit. So which is why because so much the majority of the people in our country, they can't afford an architect in the first place, so you can't
I think
expect it to be. Yeah,
Yeah,
tell
and
me.
Ajay, I think we are digressing to a topic which is a topic for a whole new discussion. Will take an hour whether or not architects are valued enough, and we've digressed a lot from where Rashnithi started. So I think it'll be great, and it's a great plug for a future episode where we talk about whether architects are valued. But I'll try and bring it back to what Rashnithi was trying to say about
Roshan.
her field of work.
Yeah, so basically my point is that like whatever we've done or whatever I have done, let's say in my previous companies, and those websites have been redone by other designers and everything, that doesn't make like take all of that away. But so in my case, I would say that the satisfaction is there. I'm getting the validation from people. Like there have been times when people have said, why does the website look like this? It's so ugly or it's so not sophisticated. But then that's another thing that is sort of like a learning lesson. Instead of being butthurt and sort of sitting in a corner and crying, you actually ask more questions. You're like, okay, so which part of it do you not like? Is it the color or is it something else? Or did you find it difficult to navigate within the website or the application? So you take those feedback, and the next time that you work on it, you don't make those mistakes or you try to work your way around it. And one good thing in my industry is that the life cycle of any upgrade or any new product is much shorter than it is in the case of architecture. In architecture, it's like you have to spend 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So by the time you get your feedback and the next time you get to apply it, it's different. So in my case, I would say the feedback part is there. I get if it's bad, well, I take feedback and I just whatever. I just close the door on those negative feelings. And if it's good, then I get the validation too. But at the same time, I'm like, because I'm getting paid a fair amount, which sort of helps me sustain even in a city like Bangalore. And another thing about IT companies is that because they always try to, so this is one thing that I've seen very strongly in all these IT companies, even in India, they are constantly trying to show that, we are no less than any American or Nordic country. We are going to pay you almost as much as a man making in Texas, at least like as per Indian standards. We are going to make sure that you have your health care sorted out. We're going to make sure that your entire family gets up to a certain level of coverage. We're going to give you additional perks. So that way they're constantly trying to make sure that their employees have no reason to leave the company. It's like just stay with us, okay, just don't go. So the along with the mental emotional validation, this one also kind of helps. So it just makes for a much more, it's like once you get into the job, except for the job related headache, you don't have to worry about like your day to day. It's like oh my god, will I be able to pay my rent, will I be able to pay my electricity? So with like for beginner architects, it might be a little bit of a challenge, especially when you're moving to another city. Your own city, it's like previously you weren't making anything, now you're making something. So whatever you make, that's a surplus, right? But when you go to another city, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Because I'll tell you, in Bangalore alone, like sometimes just in transportation alone, that can rack up such a massive bill. Like you don't even have to worry about going out and eating out. You just miss your bus one day, you have to take an auto. There itself, like $1,000 gone like this.
So Rashnithi, why don't you give us some idea as to how much it actually pays? So you haven't given us a figure. So for anyone who's actually looking to get into the industry, what can they expect? And how easy is it for someone who's completing their graduation in architecture to make that jump?
Okay, so like number wise, again, it differs quite a lot from one company to another company. I personally, as a rule of thumb, prefer working for startups because apart from the money aspect of it, you get a lot of other benefits like flexibility with regards to time. You get to work from home whenever you want, and startups also allow you to, for the most part, they allow you to take on extra projects. So say you have a little bit of free time, you take another interface or logo design project, and you can earn a little bit of extra buck on the side. Architecture is so demanding, it's a little difficult. I'm not saying impossible, it's like you already have to invest so much energy and time, so taking other gigs on the side is a little bit of a challenge. But I would say, like, for like a graphic designer in Bangalore, like the starting salary would be 6 LPA. For a UX designer would be 8 LPA. So that's like the starting salary without any experience. So that's the, like, pretty much the benchmark there.
And how easy is it to make the jump from architecture to the design industry, graphic design industry?
So the thing about graphic design and UI design, even though people use
Yeah,
it interchangeably, graphic design is mostly to do with things that are like print related stuff, or even if it's digital, it's not a digital platform where you don't have the interaction part. It's
right, right,
something, you have your billboards, you have your brochures, everything, all of those things. UI is the part where like the interaction comes into play. So the way you
right,
handle it is a bit different. Now, the thing about graphic design is that you have to have a wonderful eye. You practically have to be an artist. Like graphic design is nothing but art with like a deep rooted understanding of typography, colors, and all of those things. So you have to be an artist. Like that's like the at its very core, you have to be really good at it. You can't just be like, oh yeah, I know Photoshop, so I'm just gonna go and become a graphic designer. That is a very wrong way to handle that. Because if it was that easy, then everybody would have would be a graphic designer, right? So that's one. And the other thing is, so for UI design, it's like, of course, you have to have an eye for beauty, but you have to be extremely like methodical in the way you think. Like literally every, you have to keep asking questions. Like if there's something that is not necessary, you have to trim it out. You have to keep doing your usability testings. You have to also keep up with the latest design trends, and like these design trends change every few months, so you have to see what Google has come out with now. So it's like staying on top of, it's like even for 2 months, if you're out of touch with what the rest of the world is doing, it's like you're already far behind. So you have to be on top of all of these things, what's happening everywhere. So it's mostly to do with like tool wise. UI is very easy. Like the tools, they literally have like 4 options. You have like rectangle, circle, straight line, and play button. So it's like tool wise, it's very easy to pick up. You can literally pick it up in like 15 minutes. But understanding what happens as a workflow is like a much deeper theory. Whereas with
okay,
graphic design, you have to be good with your tools. You have to be very, very, like, you just have to be an artist with a very good understanding of tools. So now you have to take a call, like, are you good at these things? Because of course you can make the transition, you can design a couple of logos, but if in the long run you want to make a name for yourself where people would keep coming back to you, that's not going to happen if you churn out substandard work. And even companies wouldn't want to hire a person who has like no degree in graphic design, no experience to show for. Then why would they even hire somebody? So unless you're really sure of what you want and you have some work to show,
all right.
it's going to be hard.
All right, all right. And so, Ayushidi, since we're at the last few minutes of the interview, Ayushidi, what do you think is like a fresher salary that you expect, or now that you're preparing for your masters, what is an expectation that you would have, and do you think that the industry is going to match that expectation of yours?
Right. So I'm going to pursue masters in landscape architecture at CEPT. So post graduating from there, I am expecting anywhere, between 35 to 40. I think that's a reasonable starting salary for a fresher postgraduate architect. And but then I also have some experience, so there's always that negotiating thing going on.
Hmm.
But provided that the coronavirus situation, the pandemic, is out of the way, because right now I've heard like what is going on with my friends elsewhere, the salaries are pretty low at the moment, but
Hmm.
possibly in 2 years I think things are going to get better, definitely. So
Okay.
yeah, anywhere between 35 to 40, or yeah, that's like the lowest.
And what do you think? What would you have preferred as a junior architect or a fresher architect just after graduating your bachelor's? What would you have preferred to have earned at that point of time?
I would have preferred to earn like 1 lakh. So at least.
No, like realistically, what would you have? Because after this discussion, I'm sure we have agreed on the fact that having a preference of 1 lakh is not something which is going to have very good results, right?
Right.
So,
That,
No,
so
it's
in,
not that. You can have. See, as I told you earlier, if you are expecting 1 lakh, consider the industry you are in, and then become more than 1 lakh valuable. Become
right.
more valuable. You have an option to become valuable. No question about it. You cannot.
okay,
Yeah, it's what you make of your career.
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Right?
It's what you make of your career, right?
Yeah. See, why I could do this thing, but I strongly advise all the young architects not to jump into the profession right away like I did. First of all, the scenario back then was different, and the scenario right now is completely different. Especially post coronavirus, your employability uh, it has decreased in one sense, but it has also increased in another sense. Like right now, staying in India, you can actually virtually work for any firm in the world anywhere, and we can also, as an employer, we can also get staff from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the continent, anywhere in the world. I can get a staff if he or she is valuable to me. I can kind of teach and I can get them. So those scenarios are changing. But how, why I could start, or me and sister that could start, the reason why, uh, even during our academic time, when we were spending in jail and all, even at that time, we used to work for so many architects. We almost knew all the market connections. We had at least 30, 40 market connections. Also, when I got the gold medal for my thesis and the national award for my thesis and all, so that gave me a little bit of marketing boost. One can say. Somebody is dealing with not just a fresher architect, but he is dealing with a person who has won a national award. So that gave me a kind of initial boost. And then later on, if you keep on doing the kind of work, the work can speak for itself. You can start getting referrals from different clients, and you can go on building your brand. Right now, like Arcon Design is a kind of small brand in eastern part of India. Like people look at us with a kind of respect that we deserve. So right now, this is what you need to understand. You have to slowly become valuable. And in the initial part, I can tell you one very funny thing for record. When I started working for DRDO as well. DRDO research I did for some time. At that point of time, I used to pay my driver more than the kind of research stipend I was getting from DRDO. I had a car by then because I had to also in my off time I used to run for the projects and all. At that time, I was not driving. So I used to pay my driver more than the salary I was getting from the research project. You can understand that. The first 10 years almost we took nothing, almost peanuts. My employees used to get more money than what I got. But then, it's like the small math we used to do. You remember, one car started with the same speed, another car started with zero with an acceleration. Someday they will cross, and then there is boom, like that. So you have to have a gut feeling that what you want to go, and whatever you are liking. Like somebody might be even in architecture. People say that you don't. This industry doesn't have money. Who says that? The real estate is the biggest industry in that way. There are 200, 300 crore projects are coming up here and there. But if we do not, we do not trust our abilities of, if we do not value ourselves properly, then exactly this is what the market is going to get. See, the person who is doing a 200 crore project, should he be, thinking twice to get a good architect for 1 crore? But if your competitors are telling you or giving you a comparative quote of 10 lakhs for a 200 crore project, why the hell should he spend more money than 10 lakh to somebody else? They will not do. So this is our industry also have to grow. And the people like you, we are the kind of in the verge of getting into those zones where it doesn't matter who somebody is quoting or not, we are not going to compete. But the people who are starting out right now, they have the onus onto them not to, you know, in order to get project, don't start selling yourself short. See, if Mark Zuckerberg used to, got an offer of $1 billion by Yahoo at certain time, had he sold the Facebook to Yahoo, then the story could have been completely different. But he had the gut feeling that okay, it's not going. I'm not going to stay. So he just went on to the meeting and said, obviously we know the answer, and the answer is no, and he walked out. So that kind of conviction, if you have, and if you start valuing your work, like I value it like anything. I'm not going to work for free. I'm not going to work for less money. I'll rather stand, talk to juniors, talk to the students. I do a lot of podcasts and small courses for the students who are not getting good opportunity. I try to teach them. I'll teach them for free rather than depending, on somebody who is making a business, who is making a profit. A contractor gets at least 10% of a project. At least with a good contractor who doesn't cheat, he also fairly gets 10%. And people are very happy to give a contractor 10% profit of a project. But if an architect asks for 5% fee, people are scared. Yeah, they will tell that you are providing all us with some paper and some prints. How much do they cost? They will not value you unless you start valuing yourself. So this industry can give you a lot. I can tell you the people in other countries also. In Bangladesh, I have a couple of friends. Out of their 8 or 9 cars, the cheapest car they had is a BMW. So being an architect, it's possible. It's not that it's not possible. Look at Hafiz Contractor. Look at JP Agarwal of our Calcutta. Look at people like Sanjay Puri. And forget about these names. If you go to anywhere like Norman Foster or Zaha Hadid's officers or Bharti Angels and all, we compare with the world class. We can't just compare in their pay scale. You have to be as valuable as they are. If you are good, if you are world class, then you can even. I have heard one of the developer had approached Moshe Shabdi and Norman Foster for particular project in Calcutta only for a sketch design, 3 pages, 380 pages that they will be providing. They had charged them $2 million only for 3 pages and the option to kind of have their name onto the project. They charge them 2 million. I can tell you this industry has a lot of things. Even if you are not an architect, if you are in the industry with a knowledge of architecture, there are enormous opportunities. There are so many materials, so many manufacturing things, so many complex designs you are working with. There are enormous. Just have to broaden our vision. We have to know what we are doing. There are institutes like Triple ID and IIA and IGBC. There are all institutions who are supposed to work on the benefit of the professionals. The way Roshni was telling about that they take care of a minimum standard, minimum benchmark of people getting salary. I feel ashamed when somebody applies to my firm with an after spending 5 years to architecture and then doing their internship and at least 70, 60, 70 lakhs of loan on their head, and they are asking for a menial wage of say 12,000 to 15,000 rupees. I really am ashamed of the industry in that way. But what can I do? If I am hiring somebody who is asking for 12,000 for 25,000, which I would like to, and if my competitors are getting a competitive advantage because of low cost of their employees, I can't help it. So people, if you are capable enough to give me something which I'm not getting otherwise, people are ready to pay. This industry has a lot to give, lot to. There is nothing to be very pessimistic about it. People who are spending time with architecture through this platform, I would like to give a message to them that just be great and open up. You don't think of what you are producing. In most of the cases, what happens is like we concentrate on the effort that we are putting in. Yeah, you are putting in an effort. If you put an effort to push this wall with all your power, you can get sweated and you can start bleeding also. But if the wall doesn't move, then your effort is meaningless to somebody. So you have to think of the result instead of concentrating on the effort that you are doing. Be result oriented. Have a goal. If you have a goal to earn money, you have a lot of money to earn. If you have a goal to have a lot of impact, you have opportunity. If you have a goal to create great project and really touch people through your design, you have those options as well. All the options are on the table. It's up to you to choose.
I think that's a very optimistic note for us to end this session at, because we're also running out of time right now. Thank you, all of you guys, for being a part of this session. I hope you had a good time discussing this very